My name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to share about the 7 books that I have finished so far this month. Like, wow. Now granted, 4 of them are fairly short. That's why the number's high. So let's just dive right in. And the very first book I finished is Masquerade at Middlecrest Abbey by Abigail Wilson. This was my first book I'd ever read by Abigail Wilson, and I really enjoyed it, that I will definitely be picking up more by her. It is a marriage of convenience story set in England in 1815. So Elizabeth has a young son, and something happens at the very beginning, and Lord Torrington agrees to marry her because it's convenient for both of them and will look good. And so he brings her back to his manor. He does have 2 fairly grown daughters, but he's actually not as old as I thought he would be. And Elizabeth, Abigail's the author, Elizabeth is early 20s, and so there's like age gap, but not a huge age gap. When I found out the age of his kids, I thought, oh boy, but then his age is mentioned, and it was like, oh, okay, that's not bad at all. Okay, so a suspicious death happens that leads them to kind of investigate what is going on, because they're all there for a wedding, not their wedding, they're there for another wedding, and somebody from the wedding party dies. And it's, how did that happen? And it's really, the mystery kept me guessing, really kept me guessing. And so they're also trying to keep up their pretense of being in love and marrying rapidly for this when they hardly know each other. But because everybody's around, they've got to put up a front. And are people seeing through them? And then there is a connection to the family that we know as a reader, but some of the people do not know. And it's like, okay, is that going to be revealed? And what's going to happen? I really enjoyed these 2 characters and watching them get to know each other. And I really enjoyed the story. And I did feel like I would have liked to see more of the romance happen on the page. We see a lot of the mystery and trying to solve the clues and stuff, and a little bit of the friendship developing between them. But I really felt like they went from not really knowing each other, becoming friends, and then in love with the person, but you didn't see the buildup of the romance. So I would have liked to see more of that. But I do have a quote to share from this one. Is, God does not reserve forgiveness for a select few. It's for all. Now that last part was my wording added. But yes, so I gave this 4 stars. I do recommend it. Then I read the novella A Cowboy Unmatched by Karen Witemeyer. This is a novella in the Archer family series. I have read books 1 and book 2 of the Archer family, so I was familiar with these characters. However, I don't think you really need to know the Archer family story to enjoy this story. We are following Neil Archer, who is the youngest of the Archer boys and always treated as a kid. Never really seen as a man now that he's older. So he has left the family ranch to go off on his own and try to make his own way so that he can buy his own ranch and kind of have himself established as a man. He arrives in this town and ends up connecting with this widow, or gets assigned a roofing job for a widow by an anonymous person. Don't know who that person is. And he goes and meets the widow, and it's not what he expected at all. And so that first interaction doesn't go very well. It's pretty entertaining. It's a bit rocky and stuff, but then we watch a friendship form between the 2 of them, and Neil learns more about this widow, and his protective streak comes out. And he just wants to do anything he can to help this widow. It might mean something different than what the widow had planned. But I loved watching this friendship form between them. And it is a short little novella, so it is very quick, it's very instant love in some ways. But I didn't care because I was fully invested in these characters and loved them. And because I know the Archer family, I was so happy when they arrived back on the Archer family ranch and we met up with the characters that I knew. So this was an easy 5-star read for me because it was just a fun, quick novella. It's only 120 pages, maybe, if even that. I don't know. But it was a fun story. Okay, then next book is With Every Letter by Sarah Sundin. So this is book 1 of the Wings of Nightingale series. Yes, I had to check that. So we are following Melly Blake, who is a lieutenant in the army. In the army? I don't know. And in whatever she wears a uniform, she is a nurse and is trying to become a flight nurse. She does eventually become a flight nurse. And she is assigned a task to write a letter to somebody serving overseas. But it's meant to be an anonymous pen pal. Send it, they might reply. You could continue, possibly, who knows, right? Okay, so then the guy character is an engineer serving in Africa. And his name is Tom. And he has a lot of baggage that he's dealing with because of who his father was. Now, I will say some of the father storyline felt really far-fetched, a bit, not so much on the father side, but how people are treating Tom because of who his father was. Like, it was like everybody knew him, everybody, and it was like, would it really be that widely known? Like, or, I don't know, it felt a little far-fetched to me. And with this being letters in the title, and knowing that they are an anonymous pen pals who build a relationship up, and will they ever reveal themselves to each other, who their real names are and stuff, I was really hoping for a lot more letters in it. There's not a ton of letters in it. There's some, but not a ton. But you also know that, or you get the sense that a lot of other letters have been sent that we just haven't seen as readers. They're not included in here. So they do end up meeting, but they don't know that they've met. A friendship forms between them. They both end up serving overseas in Algeria and then later in Sicily. And it was interesting to see. I was really invested in the characters and kind of what was going to happen next for them. I was not so interested in the pen pal letter thing and that one of them knows before the other one and won't reveal. And I really enjoyed the characters, but I wish there was more and not so many secrets, I think. And Melly just really looks down on herself, like really has a very low opinion of herself, and that really affects things for her. I wish she kind of listened to people around her. There are some really mean characters in the story as well that I just wanted to wish her the superiors would have seen what we saw. It was just like, oh my gosh. I use this for Chantal's beauty prompt for January because there's a lot of talk about physical appearance and beauty and does he see me as beautiful or I'm not as beautiful as them, and yeah, so there was a lot of that. I did enjoy the story and the side characters. There are a couple characters who I know are the main characters of the next ones in this series that I want to keep reading to find out. I just didn't love this as much as I was hoping to love it. But it is still a 4 stars because I was still invested in the book. Now we have my favorite read so far of the month. And that is The Edge of Belonging by Amanda Cox. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this was so good. I was so connected and invested in these characters. It is a dual timeline story told from 1994. You follow Harvey, who has found an abandoned baby and he's homeless and he's trying to take care of this baby, and he just forms a connection instantly with this baby. And so we see kind of what happens in that timeline back in the 1994 when he finds this baby. Then it jumps to present day when this baby, Ivy, is 24 years old and her grandmother has passed away. She has always known that she was adopted, and her grandmother hints that there's more to her story than she knows. And she left a journal for her, but then the journal goes missing, and so the search goes on to Ivy trying to find out the whole story. So we've got the present day going on with Ivy, and she has stuff going on in her life currently in addition to figuring out who she is. And then it jumps back to 1994 where we're following Harvey with this baby. It's very quickly connected that Ivy is the baby. Like, that's not a spoiler. It's very quickly connected. So I loved these characters so much, and I was so invested. There is one character who you're meant to hate, and I did not like him at all. And it was like, good for Ivy for finally dealing with it and standing up for herself. And yeah. I got so connected to these characters that in the 1994 timeline, as I'm reading it near the end, I was just sobbing. I knew, because of the present day timeline, I knew that things would work out and things would be fine. But in that moment, I felt the anguish of the characters. And I was crying so hard. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was fully connected with these characters. And so I have a couple quotes to share. I marked up, I don't annotate books. I always take a picture of a quote I like so that I can write it down. I took so many. So many. I was like, wow, like the faith story of this and trusting God and caring for each other, and yeah. Okay, so one quote I'm going to share with you is, love is love. Nurturing is nurturing. It doesn't take a blood relative. We're all adopted into God's family through Jesus. And the second one is, when I let go of my grip on my pain, I make space for new things. Things that bless me in ways I never would have imagined. We just have to let go and let God. Like, I loved this book. And this is one I cannot stop thinking about since I finished it. And I read this in basically like less than 2 days. Like, yeah, I just was so connected to it. Okay, then another novella, Then Came You by Becky Wade. This is 150 pages, and it is the prequel to the Bradford Sisters series. In this one, we meet their father, Garner? I have trouble with his name. I don't know why. And so we were following his journal entries over a 6-year period approximately of when he had his first daughter and then the addition of the other 2 daughters, and kind of his romance or relationship with the mothers of, like, so the sisters' moms. And I really enjoyed getting to know him. This was my second time reading it, and I really enjoy the style of writing. It is fully epistolary with the journal entries, and then there's phone calls between Kathleen, who is a female character in here, and her friend, and letters between Kathleen and her mom. Well, really her mom to her. And there's just so much that happens. As I said, it covers basically a 6-year period. There's so much that happens that really could have easily been expanded on so much. There is heartache and challenges and good times. Like, just so much. There was times that it was like, oh, I forgot that that happened, and oh, I feel his pain. And then there's other times that just made me laugh. It was like, The last two books I have to talk about are books 3 and book 4 of the All Creatures Great and Small collection. So this is by James Herriot. It is a nonfiction based on his life as a country vet in Yorkshire, England. And so the reason I read books 3 and 4, because I mean, obviously I have to make progress in the series because of my husband. He chose book 7 on my bingo board to read. So now I've got 2. I'm getting closer, 3 and 4. And the other reason is I had an audiobook of these that was narrated by was narrated by Christopher Timothy, who was the actor who played James Herriot in the TV version of All Creatures Great and Small that I grew up with my parents. Not the version nowadays. But yes. And it was the only book I had on audio at the time, so I was like, well, I might as well continue on and do this one as well. So we are in book 3. We are following James. He has just recently got married, and kind of what does that entail? And then the next one continues on with more stories of time on the farm, country. And it was interesting to find out that he went off for war to serve in the war, but not as a vet, and how that came about that he wasn't a vet. So that was interesting. There are some moments in it that are really funny. He definitely has a way to tell a story that really, probably was very entertaining at the time as well. And the way it comes across is just so funny. And he also shares about how vet medicine has changed over the years and improved. And they didn't have a vaccine or a solution to certain issues, and nowadays it is there. There's a possibility. On how they discovered, one of the things he discovered very accidentally is, talked about in this book. I really enjoyed spending time with him. It was great as an audiobook. I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if I had sat down and read it, but to hear him tell the story, it's not him narrating, but you know what I mean. And yeah, so they were both 3 stars for me because it's just an entertaining read. So that is what I have read so far this month. Let's see what the rest of the month brings. Can it beat out my favorite book of the month? So I don't know. Will I find another favorite? I don't know. Stay tuned. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I would love to chat in the comments below. But if you have nothing to say and just want to say that you were here, leave me a book stack emoji in the comments, because 7 books, I think that makes a book stack. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.